Hey guys, what's up? Connor, aka the Music Fanatic here, coming to you guys not with a review. This time, I'm actually going to be doing something that I'm going to call discussion videos, or just, I guess, as some critics call it, an editorial video. This is going to be the first thing of this, and the reason why I'm making this video is because recently the internet's busiest music nerd, the Needle Drop, made a video about this, and it's going to be over a certain subject of a certain alternative rock, power pop, and pop rock band for the 1990s. They released two albums, 1994 and 1996, and they're both considered their best albums to date, to this day. Both of them are considered their best albums. I'm of course talking about Weezer with the Blue Album and Pinkerton. And the discussion is which one is better. Now, of course, I myself would just like to take the easy way out and say, oh, both of them are both perfect 10 out of 10 albums and some of the best albums ever made and some of the best albums of all time, and they're in my top 10 favorite albums of all time list, and blah 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 this and blah 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 that. But I'm actually going to be picking apart these albums in the way that I want to, track by track off of every single album. Well, maybe not even like that. I'll just be talking about both albums and why one is better than the other in some ways, why one is, just pretty much talking about the albums and which one I think is superior. Now, the reason why this is so hard is because, like the guy, the rock critic on YouTube, who you should all be subscribed to, said, Weezer kind of catched two different lightning strikes in two different jars, or as some people would say it, they did the impossible of releasing, a great, grand, wonderful album like the Blue Album as their debut album. They released the Blue Album. Everyone loved it, critics loved it, and everyone thought this is one of the best albums of the 90s, and it's pretty much saved everyone. It was kind of a breath of fresh air away from grunge. And so they pretty much cut the lightning bolt in the jar with this album, and later on they did with Pinkerton. You see, as everyone knows, the lore behind the album Pinkerton is that when this album was released, nobody really liked it. Reason for that, as I stated before, this is a breath of fresh air away from grunge, because this had songs on it like no one else, which sure is a song blatantly like sexist and all that stuff, about a guy who has a dream girlfriend that his ideal woman won't even laugh for anyone else, and put her makeup on the shelf and all that stuff, and will only do things for him and will not do anything else. And it's like, if you see her and you see her trying to do these things, tell her that it's over and I'm not going to be with her. It's still a really fun and cheery sounding song. And then Buddy Holly, which is pretty much a song that Rivers wrote about being in a relationship with a girl and he has to have a confrontation with people, but it doesn't work out so well. And then the song is pretty much just a happy little song about Rivers Cuomo saying that he looks remarkably like Buddy Holly. Undone, the Sweater Song, another song, kind of a little bit of a depressing song, but uses the metaphor of like the sweater and everything, so much so that, as the Needle Drop stated, people don't even know this song as the song Undone anymore. Most people just know it as the Sweater Song. Surf Wax America, which is, the song about like different means of transportation and stuff, and how some people take their car to work and others take their, he'd rather take his surfboard and stuff. It's pretty much just a surfing song. Then pretty much as the song In the Garage, which is about being a nerd and being locked inside of a garage and doing the things that you love just because you love doing them. Holiday, a song about going on a vacation with someone and just going away from the whole world and forgetting all your problems. And then Only in Dreams, which is probably my third favorite Weezer song of all time, which is, the song, you have this ideal girl and you have this ideal woman that you need to be with, and even though you're like a really nervous person, you know that she could be the right one, but this woman only exists in dreams. And of course, the Blue Album also has my favorite Weezer song of all time, and one of my favorite songs of all time, The World Has Turned and Left Me Here. So overall, this album as I stated, it also has what people consider the best Weezer song ever made, Say It Ain't So, which is almost a biographical piece by by Rivers himself, which is about his father and his stepfather, and the alcohol abuse that he went through, both of them, and the abandonment issues he has with his father. And it's really just an angry sounding song, but above all, this album had kind of a cheery vibe behind it, and most people could get behind it because, unlike grunge, it was a really poppy sounding album and a really upbeat sounding album in some places, like the songs My Name Is Jonas, No One Else, Buddy Holly, and everything. So it was like a breath of fresh air. And then they released an album that almost follows inside of grunge, but almost is pretty much labeled as emo, Pinkerton, 2 years later. Now, you see, in some ways, I can see why nobody really got behind this album when it first came out, but in some other ways, I mean, sure, it's a different sound. It is like, if you were to take these albums and play them back to back, they have two completely different vibes to it. The Blue Album has kind of an upbeat, poppy vibe, and this has a melodramatic, really depressing, emotionally driven album that instrumentation is kind of sloppy sounding. The quality is really, really, really raw, and it's from the heart, pretty much, as most Weezer fans will tell you. And this is also the album that until 2008, Rivers absolutely hated, because, as I said, when this album first came out, nobody wanted to get behind it because of how weird it sounded, and it was so different from what they experienced with the Blue Album. I mean, I'll admit this, I love the song, but I don't think releasing the song El Scorcho as the first single off this album was really a good step. If they released a song like Why Bother, or The Good Life, or Get You, or any other song, pretty much, even the song Falling For You, if they were to release that as the first single off the album, I'm pretty sure people would try to get behind Pinkerton a little bit more. But El Scorcho, just because, even for Weezer standards, I will admit, El Scorcho is a pretty weird song, especially since the translation is, it doesn't even translate anything. It's El Scorcho, it translates to the Scorcho, so wherever the actual name for that comes from, sure. But yeah, El Scorcho, I would say it's not really a good choice for the first single released off the album. I would probably go with some of the more upbeat sounding songs. Sure, The Good Life is not that much of an uplifting song, but if you take most of the songs off of Pinkerton, it's probably the most uplifting song off the entire album. And as it's been stated before, in a reader's poll of Rolling Stone magazine, this was rated the second worst album of 1996 on the reader's poll. Whoa. I mean, I know that most people couldn't get behind the album because of how emotionally driven it was, and how it had weird different sounds to it, had really raw sound to it and everything, and everyone was like, oh no, this album Pinkerton, it sucks and all that stuff. But later on, everyone realized how great it was and everything. And I think if Rivers were to give a little bit of context when the album was about to come out, like what the meaning behind the album was supposed to be, I think people would have taken it better, because pretty much, as everyone knows, when the Blue Album came out a year after, in 1995, Weezer was actually working on a space opera that they were going to put out, a space rock opera called Songs from the Black Hole, and the hidden meaning behind that was supposed to be about Rivers and the way he was going through, like, becoming a rock star and everything, and how he was almost like the anti-rock star. And this was really commercially sounding in a way. Like, nowadays, this is like the most commercial sounding alternative rock and pop rock album of the 1990s in general. And this is completely not what commercially successful radio sounding music would sound like. It's almost, people would say this is a hipster album, and I completely agree. It's probably, if you were to say top 10 hipster albums of all time, like, this would obviously be like number one, like, because every hipster on the face of the planet, whenever they see Pinkerton, they're like, oh my god, it's the best Weezer album ever. It's like a staple of the 1990s. And don't get me wrong, I'm not dissing hipsters. I mean, I do think this is a staple of the 1990s, and probably the of the upper catalog of Weezer's music and stuff. But yeah, there's some ways that I absolutely love this album, and then there's some ways that this album just, like, perplexes me when I listen to it sometimes. Don't get me wrong, I jam out to this album and listen to this album on repeat forever. So pretty much what I'm getting at from all of this and explaining the history behind it, oh yeah, I probably should have got back to the songs from Song from a Black Hole. The original plan for that was that they were going to record that and, release it in 1996, but Rivers had to get surgery on his leg, and that pretty much prohibited him from being in the studio and recording and stuff. And this is around the time he enrolled in Harvard University, and he was studying, I think it was classical composition or something like that. He was studying that, and pretty much he was at the loneliest point he ever was at his entire life. And he had like a journal he was writing in, and most of it was actually stuff that actually turned into songs off of Pinkerton. So they scrapped the Songs from a Black Hole idea and then recorded Pinkerton. And yeah, so later on, I completely agree with the whole, this is one of the best albums in the 1990s and a staple in Weezer's career. Like, you listen to this album today and you will see the genius behind it. Like, it's a person who is just like longing for love, and just a person who absolutely just wants to feel loved and everything. And that's expressed in songs like Tired of Sex, which is a genius song about a man who, in his life, he has many sexual partners. He's pretty much a person who just has sex left and right with every person he can possibly meet, and every person he meets, he just has sex with them and everything. But he's never really experienced love in the way that most people would agree with. And then other songs off this album, like, well, the second track, Get You, which is pretty much a song about, two people who meet and all that stuff, and they're like, how people are when they like figure out they like each other and everything. Like, they'll joke around and stuff. Sometimes they'll be purposely mean to each other just for the joking around and stuff. But sometimes people can take it too far. And pretty much the chorus of the song, I finally understand what "get you" means in that. It's pretty much saying like, I'm gonna still try to get you, and maybe I can still get you like in my life as a girlfriend and all that stuff. And I think one of the most genius songs off the entire album, the two most, like, my favorite songs off the entire album of Pinkerton, Why Bother and Falling for You. Why Bother is a song about a guy who thinks he's in love with this woman, and he thinks that this is the greatest person he has ever met in his entire life, and this person is just his dream of a person that he wants to love and everything. But it's just sexual attraction, and, it's happened to him twice before, of meeting someone that he thinks he loves and everything, but it turns out, he actually just had a sexual attraction towards them. I absolutely love the song for that, and also the song Falling for You. Mostly, I love the song Falling for You. It's my second favorite Weezer song of all time, mostly because I relate to the song so goddamn much. I've been in so many positions where I become friends with a girl, or I become friends with someone, and I immediately start picturing in my head what it would be like to be with them in a relationship. And I think the first line of this song encapsulates all of that. The first line of the song, Falling for You, is, holy cow, I think I've got one here. Now what am I supposed to do? That is like one of my favorite lyrics of like all time. Absolutely love the song to death, and it's my second favorite Weezer song of all time, and probably it will become my favorite. The World Has Turned and Left Me Here is just a song that I absolutely can listen to on repeat over and over again, just because the acoustic guitar in the beginning of that mixed with the electric guitar, the lyrics of the song, The World Has Turned and Left Me Here, it's pretty much a sequel song to No One Else. It's like a guy who finally figured out what he did was wrong, and he fucked up in the relationship that he had. So he looked back and he's like, the world has turned and left me here, and it's just about missing someone. Another song that's extremely notable and really underrated off of Pinkerton is the final track, Butterfly. It's a completely acoustic song with minimalistic drums in the song, and the entire song is pretty much a metaphor for a guy who finds a girl who's the butterfly, and he finds her, and he's like in a relationship with her and everything, but it turns out it's either a one-night stand, or he has a sexual relationship with her and everything, and then he figures out at the end, like, oh, I did what my body told me to, rather than, trying to be in a relationship with you and everything. I did what my body told me to, and, like, I'm sorry and everything. And the voice, like, when Rivers' voice, like, it doesn't really crack, but when it breaks in the song, like he's crying, it just adds to the emotion behind the song. So it's really hard pick between these two. I probably should talk about the song Across the Sea, by the way. It's one of the only blatantly just, it's not a song that you could take into your own interpretation. It is literally a song about Rivers. The song is about a letter he got from a Japanese fan, an 18-year-old Japanese fan from a small city in Japan, obviously. And since he was in Harvard and since he was at the loneliest point in his entire life, he dreamed of this girl. He dreamed that he was going to fall in love with this person. He was going to love them and all that stuff. And he's pretty much, as the song says, why are you so far away from me? He also never met this woman ever in his entire life. But it's pretty much a song about, he got a letter from a fan that he ended up falling in love with just because of the letter, but he never met her and he never could. And another song that has something to do with that is the song Pink Triangle. I will admit the concept behind the song is a little weird, but I'm pretty sure some people in this world could relate to it. Rivers, he fell in love with this girl at Harvard, and he fell in love with her. He dreamt of marrying her, but she had a pink triangle on her sleeve, which is pretty much in support of gay pride and everything. So he dreamt about marrying her, but oh no, she's a lesbian. But it turned out later on, actually, the person in the song, I read this from somewhere, Rivers actually stated that it turned out the girl he wrote the song Pink Triangle about wasn't actually a lesbian. So there you go. And also, apparently, I learned that a pink triangle is something that the Nazis used to use back in World War II, where they would put those on gay people to point out if they were gay or not. So, yeah. But, as I said, picking between a favorite of these two albums is like picking a favorite child. I mean, everyone wants to go with Billy, but you don't want to be mean about it. If I had to be 100% blatantly honest, I'm pretty sure what my favorite album out of these two depends on my mood at the time. If I'm just in a chill out mood, or if I just want to listen to a really fucking good album, or if I'm just in, just a regular mood, I'd probably listen to the Blue Album, which is what I feel like more often. But if I'm in one of those like sad days, whatever, if I'm having a bad day, I'll usually throw on Pinkerton. But I find myself listening to the Blue Album a little more than Pinkerton. So I'm not going to say, oh, the Blue Album is objectively better than Pinkerton, and Pinkerton is the lesser album, and the Blue Album is just the golden achievement of all of Weezer. It is the golden achievement of all of Weezer, because, it's the Blue Album. I mean, you cannot go wrong with this album. You can't go wrong with this album either, but sometimes if you're a newcomer, you gotta be in the right mood to listen to Pinkerton. I say that anyone on this planet could throw on the Blue Album any day, any time, and they can enjoy it. This is one of those albums where, you see, I've always said this, when it comes to the Blue Album and Pinkerton, if Weezer were to try to release a greatest hits album, they don't need to, because they already have two of them. Song after song after song off of Blue Album and Pinkerton, song after song is pretty much some of their best songs. Even the Watch Mojo video of the top 10 Weezer songs of all time, literally, it's literally just these two albums and then one song, Island in the Sun, off of the Green Album. So obviously, if there's a person who's a fan of Weezer, those two albums are a get-go to go to. You literally have to listen to the Blue Album and Pinkerton if you're a Weezer fan, or if you're trying to be a Weezer fan. After that, then you could probably go to the Green Album, Maladroit. I mean, because, go to Maladroit first and then go to the Green Album, or go to the Green Album and then go to Maladroit, because if you just want... The Green Album, I'll just describe it as, it's a chill album. It's not all flashy. There's not a lot of really awesome guitar solos in the album, but it's kind of just a chill out album that you could listen to. It's just a really fantastic pop rock album. It's barely alternative rock. It's more pop rock than it is alternative rock. And as I forgot who said it. Oh yeah, the guy Vinyl Rewind, as he stated, Weezer did what Nirvana did to grunge in the 1990s. Well, Weezer did that to alternative rock, much like Green Day did that to punk. If you're gonna say no, if you're gonna disagree with me on that, sure, fine, fuck you. But yeah, then after that you could listen to Maladroit. Then I'd say I would skip Make Believe to Gratitude, or to Hurley if you're on a bad day, and then just go skip right to Everything Will Be Alright in the end. But yeah, picking a favorite out of the two, Pinkerton or Blue Album, I'm probably just gonna have to go with the Blue Album. I mean, Pinkerton is an amazing album, but the Blue Album is a perfect album. That's the way I'll describe it. This album is amazing and near perfect, near flawless. The only flaws I'd say in this album is that the rawness and the production quality is something I respect off this album because of the way that like the drums sound and how the instrumentation is not amazing on the album and everything. It's just it fits the mood behind the album, but some ways that can draw it back just a little bit. But everything on the Blue Album is absolutely perfect. This album, from My Name is Jonas to from the beginning of the song My Name is Jonas, from the beginning acoustic guitar note to the final bass note on the bass chord at the end of the song Only in Dreams, this album is absolutely perfect. It is, I think, 44 minutes, just 44 minutes of absolute gold of music. So which one do I think is better after this long discussion of the differences between Blue Album and Pinkerton? I'd have to go with Blue. I mean, both albums are near perfect. This album is actually perfect. Both albums are absolutely amazing, staples of the 90s, and two of some of my favorite albums of all time. But if I had to pick one, I'd probably pick Blue. So, yeah, I guess thank you for watching this video. If you watched all of it, thank you. But yeah, that's pretty much it. What's your opinion? Which one do you think is better? Do you prefer Blue Album over Pinkerton, or do you prefer Pinkerton over the Blue Album, and why? Leave that in the comments. Whichever one you prefer, good for you. I mean, I only picked the Blue Album mostly because I've listened to the album more, and I just think that the album is absolutely perfect. But if you're a person who likes Pinkerton over the Blue Album, go ahead. That's great. I'm just glad that you actually know which ones are the best albums by Weezer. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching this video. And 3, 2, 1, I'm done. Subscribe. And in the comment section below, leave me suggestions of more videos I should make, reviews, I guess discussion videos, and other stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Goodbye.